When someone mentions musicians having beef with each other, what first comes to mind? Probably something like Kendrick and Drake, right? A very popular discourse between two well-known artists. But what if I told you there was a discourse that had been going on for over a year now that had slipped completely under the internet's radar? A story of betrayal, petty name-calling, experimental music, and forgiveness. 6 albums, 2 artists, and one incredible story that went unnoticed. Sup freaks, it's me, your boy, and today I will be discussing the discourse between 2 artists of the name HCL, or Hyper Chicken Licken, and virtual wrestling. Where did these 2 come from, what happened between them, and what is yet to come? Now, even if you're watching this with plenty of knowledge on internet drama and stories, there's still a big chance you have no idea who these people are. These 2 artists are incredibly undercover, with HCL being the more popular of the 2, having only 125 subscribers on YouTube and only 28 monthly listeners on his Spotify. So, for those of you who need an introduction, let's start with HCL. HCL, or Bob R6 on YouTube, is an unknown musician supposedly originating from England. He released his first album, titled Blessup, on the 11th of August 2023, consisting of 18 songs. He first released the full album on YouTube in the form of a 48-minute video, and later released it on Spotify under the name Hyper Chicken Licken. The album, despite being an incredible introduction to HCL as an artist, only got up to 100 views in the first week of release, and now has only 495. I highly recommend going and checking out both of these people's albums, by the way. While some of the music that I will be getting into is a whole new level of weird, these artists deserve much more recognition than they get. I also recommend going and checking out my friend JJ's review on the full Blessup album over on his channel. It's very good, and also the only review I've ever seen on any of the albums. Now, despite this album not being very popular, the audience it did gain was enthralled by HCL's talent, the comments being flooded with positivity. But with every good art piece comes its cheap imitation. Okay, that's very harsh and not at all a good description of what was to come, but I just wanted an excuse to use that quote. Not long after Blessup was released, a new album reared its head onto my YouTube recommended of the title The Little Things album, or Things Little The according to the album cover. It was released by an artist known as Virtual Wrestling, another artist located in England with no prior released albums or tracks on his channel. It's quite difficult to determine when exactly it was released, as Virtual Wrestling has since deleted it off of YouTube, it now being only available on his Spotify account under the same name. But I believe it was released sometime in between Blessup and the release of Blessup 2, as I remember being recommended it around that time. This album, unlike Blessup, was much more taking practically everything that made the original Blessup album strange and dialing it up to 1,000. Now, the album bears almost no resemblance to Blessup in the slightest. In fact, I initially had no reason to relate it to Blessup or HCL at all. That was until I noticed something. HCL actually featured on a track from the Little Things album titled Just Me, where he helped with the instrumental and even had a section where he did a bit of the vocals himself. This collaboration obviously implied a friendship between the 2, or at least a partnership of some kind, and even when looking at HCL's YouTube you can find Virtual Wrestling as a featured channel. So what exactly went wrong? On the 18th of October 2023 came the release of Blessup 2, the sequel to Blessup and the second installment of the Blessup trilogy. On this album, there was no longer any collaborations with Virtual Wrestling, but instead there were 2 diss tracks on 2 separate people, one titled Isaac Diss Track and the other titled Diss Track About Chad. While neither of these names are Virtual Wrestling, there is a possibility that one of these tracks could simply be referring to Virtual Wrestling by his real name, as Virtual Wrestling has never publicly stated his real name, unlike HCL, whose name is supposedly Bob given his username. Even if it isn't, this album certainly marks the beginning of the many diss tracks that would follow it, most of which made about each other. Now, at first I thought that Diss Track About Chad was our culprit. The main reason I thought this is due to the fact that Diss Track About Chad is actually the continuation of another track titled Love Song About Chad, which was released with the first Blessup album, which gives us history with this Chad figure. Love Song About Chad is very clearly about being betrayed by a loved one, easily deduced from the lyrics "Chad, why did you leave me on the ground?" and "Don't you ever leave me on my own again, Chad," which could be documenting HCL and Virtual Wrestling's supposed falling out, which led to Diss Track About Chad. However, things get a little more complicated when you take into account that this song was released with Blessup all the way back in August of 2023, before HCL and Virtual Wrestling even collaborated, and even further before a supposed falling out would have ever taken place. Taking into account that HCL was also a child when he first recorded the song, and the timeline just doesn't match up, which leaves us with Isaac Diss Track. Now, the main reason I first wrote off Isaac Diss Track being in reference to Virtual Wrestling was because there already seemed to be an explanation for the song's existence. You see, under almost every single one of HCL's posts, there has always been only one negative comment from the same account, whose first name just so happens to be Isaac, spelled the exact same way as the song title. And so, I simply wrote it off as HCL and his collaborators Butterfly Boy, Bob Ross, and no one else, not a single other person was on the track, all banding together to get back at the haters. But what if it's not that simple? You see, when looking through HCL's comments for this video, I noticed a specific comment by this Isaac in question that caught my interest. It was a reference to a track by Virtual Wrestling titled Hyper Chicken Licking Diss Track, which was released with the Tiny Things album. But that's just the thing. The Tiny Things album was released way after Blessup 2, and in extension, far after this comment. Riddle me this, how was Isaac able to reference an album that wasn't released yet? Unless he was making it. I also listened to Isaac Diss Track again to see if I could find any hints in the lyrics. Funnily enough, not many of the lyrics were very insightful into who this Isaac is as a person, but I did pick up on a couple things. One is that at some point in the song, Isaac is referred to as a twink, and looking at the only known photograph of Virtual Wrestling, that being his Spotify profile picture, yeah, I can see it. Another was that I noticed some choir-esque vocals at a few points in the song, which almost eerily mimics a few points in some of Virtual Wrestling's songs. In conclusion, I think that Isaac Diss Track is more likely to be in reference to Virtual Wrestling than Diss Track About Chad, but it's anyone's guess, really. With the release of the Tiny Things album came two new diss tracks, the first of which being titled Hyper Chicken Lickin' Diss Track. Out of most of the diss tracks we'll be covering today, this track probably has the least to analyze, at least in the case of attempting to understand the falling out between HCL and Virtual Wrestling further. The vocals are mostly just Virtual Wrestling saying "fuck you, Hyper Chicken Lickin'" over and over again, with there only being one part of the song where they change. In this segment, the lyrics range from threatening HCL to insulting Blessup 2, saying he liked Blessup 1 more, but none really delve into what happened between them or why the two dislike each other that badly, and perhaps that's intentional. At the end of the day, this song wasn't made to make any profound statements or expose the truth. It was made to piss HCL off, and that is made significantly clear through the blatant insults thrown his way in this song. Whether he deserves them or not? Well, that's what we're here to find out. This song actually plays into a little theory I've been brewing for a while as well. You see, as I've listened through each album, I've found two main differences between each of the artists' music progression. While both of their music started out rather similar in some senses, both of their emotional journeys appear to have changed in very different ways. HCL's music slowly becoming more solemn, quiet, and melancholy as they released, while Virtual Wrestling's became much more manic and even a little anxiety-inducing at times. Essentially, while HCL's music has begun to sound like a depressive episode, Virtual Wrestling's has begun to sound like a panic attack, and I think that this could definitely reflect in the two's attitudes towards their albums. While I don't like to assume people's mental states often, I have come up with the theory that both of the artists' albums reflect their separate emotional spirals over the years, HCL's representing his slow descent into sadness, and Virtual Wrestling's rapid decline into a more manic state. The reason I bring this up is because when you listen to this song with this context, the lyrics really begin to feel less like a diss track and more like the ramblings of a madman. I mean, just listen to this segment.
I don't even like you, hyper chicken licking. I don't even like you, I don't even like your music. Blessup 2 wasn't even very good. I like Blessup 1 more. I don't like you, hyper chicken licking. You better watch it.
Tell me that sounds like something a well-adjusted member of society would create. No offense, Virtual Wrestling, if you're watching this. Love your stuff. But really, who's to say what mindset these two are in without meeting them? Which I probably never will. Next on our list, we have Santa diss track, in brackets, Happy Christmas HCL. This song, despite being supposedly targeted at Santa, as in the home invader, it's still fairly safe to say that this is yet another diss track regarding HCL, as he is very clearly mentioned in the title. This is also, as far as I'm aware, the longest diss track from either of the albums, its runtime being 5 minutes and 41 seconds. To put that into perspective for you, I listened to this at least 4 times in a row for this analysis. Help me. The beginning starts out rather similar to the first diss track, but instead of Virtual Wrestling saying fuck you hyper chicken lickin' over and over, he's instead saying frick you Santa over and over. He also appears to be collaborating with someone who is credited in the song as Sam. It's difficult to determine who this person is, but due to the fact that they were only credited by their first name, they most likely don't have a platform, and therefore it's safe to assume that Sam is a personal friend of Virtual Wrestling. One could go further and determine that maybe this Sam was involved in the falling out between HCL and Virtual Wrestling and ended up taking Virtual Wrestling's side, but it's impossible to tell. The song continues with the vocals being predominantly the same, and the instrumental switching from a festive jingle to a more droning and sinister sounding bass. I think at one point during one of Sam's parts, they make references to Santa going down chimneys. Maybe this does mean that this diss track is genuinely about Santa, but I honestly still doubt it due to the sheer amount of references to HCL made in this track. It's honestly more likely to be an inside joke of some kind. Halfway through the song, a new voice comes in, saying the following.
Well, it's me from Super Seagull, and you can try to figure out who I am, but you'll figure out that soon.
It's impossible to tell who this person is, as they aren't credited in the song. There is the chance of this person actually being Sam, but I doubt it, as they have much less of a presence in the song, only really showing up twice. It's pretty difficult to tell who this message is for as well. It sounds like it's for a specific person, but maybe it's some kind of message to the audience? It's almost like this voice is taunting the listener with the knowledge of who this person is, knowing damn well they have practically nothing to go off of, and frankly, it's getting to me. I did some research on this Super Seagull thing they mentioned, but all it really came up was this picture of a plane. Maybe they're a pilot? I don't fucking know, I'm moving on before I go too deep. The song continues as usual until suddenly this happens.
Frick you, hyper chicken licking.
Frick you, hyper chicken licking. Frick you, hyper chicken licking.
Frick you, hyper chicken licking.
Virtual Wrestling begins referring to HCL instead. This caught me completely off guard when I first listened to the song. Not only the blatant switch into dissing HCL, but the many other voices that begin tuning in. How did Virtual Wrestling get so many people on this song? And why didn't he credit them? What if Virtual Wrestling is a shape-shifting lizard, and he morphed into 1,000 different forms in order to taunt HCL even further? I've done it! I figured it out! With the release of Blessup 2.5 came 2 more diss tracks, the first of which, interestingly titled Hyper Chicken Diss Track. You may be wondering why HCL would make a diss track on himself, and I was wondering that too at first, until I realised he isn't. This track is an elaborate way to mock Virtual Wrestling's former diss tracks, and therefore, this would most certainly count as a Virtual Wrestling diss track more than anything. Let's take a look at a few ways this song relates to Virtual Wrestling though. The song structure is very similar to one that would be made by virtual wrestling, with a very simple yet unconventional instrumental, and the lyrics consisting of a short 3 or 4 word sentence repeating over and over very fast. However, instead of HCL himself saying this, he has a text-to-speech bot saying Hyper Chicken over and over. It seems as though HCL is recreating Hyper Chicken Licken diss track, but breaking it down to its fundamental elements in an elaborate way of ridiculing it. There can also be a faint voice heard during the song, which is quite difficult to make out, but I think I could make out a few things. At one point near the end, HCL says, "I really tried to make a good song," which could again be implying that trying to make a good song with virtual wrestling's format is impossible, making fun of him further. Overall, I think this is a very interesting and subversive way of responding to the diss tracks made by virtual wrestling. However, there is still one more diss track to cover. Our last diss track that has been released so far is titled Virtual Wrestling Diss Track. Unfortunately, this track has much less to analyze than the previous one, as it mostly goes down the route of insulting virtual wrestling, with the main lyrics just being "fuck you virtual wrestling." Out of all of the diss tracks we've covered, this is definitely the least repetitive and, in my opinion, the catchiest of the diss tracks. It's the only one of these songs that you can head bop to without it slowly turning into that rocking back and forth thing that crazy people do in movies. That, and it gave us this absolute bombshell of a segment.
You're a bitch, you're a bitch. You're a bitch, you're a bitch. Suck a dick. Can't even wrestle in real life. Can't even wrestle in real life. So you had to go virtual.
These are all of the diss tracks that have been released so far, but with the release of Virtual Wrestling's new album coming soon, I think we can look forward to a continuation of this internet beef. While we're here, I highly recommend going and checking out these diss tracks yourself, then coming back and letting me know who you think won this beef in the comments. Are we Team HCL or Team Virtual Wrestling? Now, you may be wondering to yourself, Mason, I don't understand, you've discussed the artists, their falling out, and all of the diss tracks they've made. Why is this video still so long? You poor, sweet little idiot. You have no idea how deep the rabbit hole goes. While there are many different songs with plenty to analyse in Virtual Wrestling's wide catalogue of tracks, one stood out to me among the rest, that being The Camping Man. Most Virtual Wrestling songs could easily just be read as complete nonsense, or at least songs that we as listeners don't have enough context to make sense of, a good example of this being Kettle and Toaster Set. There are little sprinkles of what could be context in this song, but I don't know what the fuck this song is about. This is what made The Camping Man jump out to me the most among the rest of the Tiny Bits album, as it seems to be the only song that Virtual Wrestling has made which seems to have a reasonably coherent story throughout it. The song begins with a recording of a child falling off of a chair, as the beat comes in and the recording begins glitching out. The glitching becomes faster and faster to the point where it begins to mimic a phone ringing, before someone who isn't Virtual Wrestling, being credited only as Andrew, picks it up. Then, this happens.
Hello? Who's this?
It's me. The Camping Man. I want to tell you a story. About a tent with two boys. Little boy. Not very old.
Most of the lyrics from this point consist of talking about two little boys shitting in a tent, but one moment does stick out to me after this. Almost 2 minutes into the song, Virtual Wrestling comes in, acting as what sounds like a news reporter and stating the following.
Breaking news. A new horror terrorizes the nation.
Waggle,
the Camping Man
wiggle,
is on the loose.
wiggle,
Do not
waggle,
leave your home for
wiggle,
any
wiggle,
reason.
waggle,
Do not leave the
wiggle,
house. Lock
waggle,
your doors.
wiggle.
And whatever you do not go camping.
The song gives us 3 characters to talk about, 2 of which being the 2 little boys who go camping and shit in a tent, and 1 being the previously mentioned Camping Man, who presumably is a serial killer or creature of some kind that goes after campers late in the night. It's fairly safe to assume that one of these little boys in the song is Virtual Wrestling, as he often refers to himself when referring to the boys in the song, and maybe this Andrew person is the other little boy, but that still leaves a rather big question. Who is the Camping Man, and more accurately, what does he represent? One thing that immediately came to mind when thinking of what the camping man might be is a creature from folklore that most of you will probably have heard of, the Wendigo. For those of you who don't know, the Wendigo is a creature that originating from Algonquinian folklore, which is described as a malevolent spirit that roams the forest. It is said to possess people, causing that person to have cannibalistic tendencies. While there aren't too many links to camping when it comes to the Wendigo, the fact that the creature lives in forests is a pretty good indicator. It also has heightened animalistic tendencies, so if a little boy were to, say, shit in a tent, the Wendigo would easily be able to track them down on smell alone. Hence why the shit in a tent line has so much emphasis placed on it in the song, because the very act of shitting in a tent was the two boys' downfall. However, the Wendigo doesn't exactly share much resemblance to a man. It's more like a giant deer-wolf hybrid in most depictions, and even if it wasn't, I'm fairly certain the Wendigo doesn't typically have the ability to speak, let alone use a phone like in the beginning of the song. I think it's more likely that the camping man isn't an actual physical being, but the manifestation of a traumatic event from the two little boys' past. Perhaps something happened on that camping trip that stuck with the two boys so much, it ended up following them wherever they went, but that's just a theory. A virtual theory. I'm losing my mind. So, since the writing process of this video, Virtual Wrestling has released his new EP titled The Little Bits. I won't be covering the EP in this video as, frankly, it's long enough, but I wanted to bring it up purely because of its description. The description reads as follows. The recurring themes of sadness about a certain Kez figure in these songs stems from Virtual Wrestling's childhood friend, who tragically passed away in the summer of 2023. This, I believe, is a key element in the story and maybe even the falling out between HCL and Virtual Wrestling. Kez had seemed to be a recurring character in the two's albums, but before the release of the Little Bits EP, I didn't realise how integral this mystery of a person really was. The existence of and grief surrounding Kez is scattered through every inch of every album created by these two artists, linking back even to the original Blessup, even if it wasn't blatantly stated. Kez is the key. As I stated earlier, the first Blessup album was released in August of 2023, linking very closely to the date given in the description of the Little Bits EP. This indicates to me that the passing of Kez was the very reason Blessup may have been released in the first place. This paints the album in a completely new light. The once light-hearted and almost ridiculous album is now telling a story I couldn't see before. The story of a man dealing with grief. The story begins with a solemn, calm instrumental in Daybreak 1 and 2, which I think represents the morning of which HCL woke up before getting the news that Kez had passed away. Still so calm and content, and ignorant of what was to come. This quickly shifts into the angry, aggressive track that is Daddy's big surprise, in brackets, gun in my hand. While this may seem like a rather silly song at first glance, I was able to dig deeper due to this song being the only one with the lyrics up on Genius. Looking through the descriptions of each of the lyrics, it quickly becomes apparent that this song is about HCL lashing out at others due to grappling with his own self-torment, which could easily link back to his first reaction at hearing the news about Kez's passing. The follow-up to this is Nitrogen, a strange, psychedelic track that almost comes across as someone sitting in their room, panicking and sobbing as they have a silent breakdown, the torment now contained inside their head, only for them to experience. The song title, Nitrogen, could also be in reference to the feeling of being unable to breathe during a panic attack, or at least, that's what it feels like to me. Help There's a Man in My House is a very short but impactful follow-up to that, simply being 10 seconds of HCL screaming and banging his desk. Crackhead Lazy Breath Breathers starts out rather silly, there only being one voice in the track, but as more and more begin to appear, the track becomes more manic, almost anxiety-inducing. It almost gives me the vibe of, yet again, a progressing panic attack. Blessup is the next track, sharing a name with the album. This song has a lot of religious themes, including the name, which could be in reference to the afterlife or heaven. The song going from an angry beat, much like what we've seen from the album prior, to a more hopeful tune could be representing a turning point in HCL's grief, as he leaves his anger behind and realises that Kez is now in a better place. Next up is Malteser's Christmas calendar, and I'll be real, I have no idea what this one means. Maybe the title referring to Christmas is another tie into Christianity, but I have no idea what to think of this one. Haha Homo Pancake Black Cars is almost calming in an eerie sort of way. It could be about HCL reminiscing on all the good times he's had with Kez, those memories now being painted in a bittersweet light. It could also be a transition from the more angry, disturbing songs thus far to the calmer, more upbeat tracks to come. T is one of those tracks. This is one of the 2 songs from this album that HCL has come forward and said is about Kez. It's a beautiful, calming piece. The other song which has been stated to be about Kez is Real Friend, yet another calm, upbeat song, and one that's tune has also made an appearance in more of HCL's songs since, which I don't doubt holds some emotional significance. HCL isn't the only one that's made a song on Kez either. Virtual Wrestling released a track titled Symphony of Kez along with the Little Things album. It's probably the calmest song on the album, the only instrument being a few acoustic guitars layered over each other. The song talks about how Kez lived in the woods and liked Minecraft. I find this point very interesting, as looking back on some of the Blessup tracks, especially the ones about Kez, they are very reminiscent of the Minecraft soundtrack. I find the concept of Kez being the starting point of all of the albums to follow his passing very interesting, and with the release of new albums hopefully on the way, we may still have more to learn about Kez and the effect he had on HCL and Virtual Wrestling. For a very long time, I thought that I knew almost everything there was to know about these 2 artists and their albums. I mean, you don't understand. Since I found out about these 2, me and a few friends of mine have been incredibly fascinated and slightly obsessed with these 2 and their releases. It felt as though I'd found a part of the internet no one else had ever seen, a hidden diamond in the rough. However, there were still some secrets to uncover that even I wasn't aware of. Recently, I was recommended a new album from HCL titled Somin, which I didn't question at first, until I realised that he hadn't released it under his own name, instead releasing it on a channel I wasn't even aware existed. Somin was released all the way back in August of 2024, and to this day, still hasn't released on Spotify, which is a shame, because it's actually my personal favourite of all of the albums from HCL. The description states that HCL doesn't like the album, which I'd assume is why he didn't release it on his main channel, but this album seems to hold a lot of emotional significance, along with his most recent album, Bobbles, and while being one of his most experimental albums, I find it to be incredibly well made. Everything about the album, even down to the album cover, is a far cry from anything HCL has put out before, but I think it's definitely worth a listen, even if it's not that easy to find. Despite everything I've talked about today, I still feel like there's so much I'm missing. I started the process of this video in October of 2024, thinking it was just going to be like 20 minutes long at least, but there is so much I have to uncover. I missed Valentine's Day with my boyfriend for this, I missed my grandmother's funeral, this is so much more than a video now. I mean, I haven't even gotten into whoever the fuck Dobby is, or Bobbles, or the secret affair between HCL and Virtual Wrestling. I can't take it anymore. I need answers more than anything I've ever needed in my life. If only I could somehow get them. Yes, you're reading that right. Through much trial and error, I was able to contact both HCL and Virtual Wrestling, and through the power of bribery, I was able to arrange an interview over Discord with the 2. This was the first time that the 2 had interacted in a very long time, and despite the significant tension, some answers finally came to light. Also, please ignore how I look in the video. The combination of my terrible camera quality and the fact that I hadn't cut my hair in a while makes me look like a bridge troll. Also, this interview was filmed in the December of 2024, so please keep in mind that some things discussed in the interview may be outdated now. For context, HCL showed up an hour and a half late for the interview. Virtual Wrestling just played a 3-minute long song while HCL danced to it with no pants on. He has them on now, I think. Do you have them on now? Okay. And now Virtual Wrestling has gone to go and get sunglasses because HCL has sunglasses. And
I have pants on.
oh, okay, cool, thank you. Did you just drink nothing? So, first of all, I'd just love to thank you both for agreeing to do this interview with me. I've been a pretty avid fan of both of you guys' works for a while now, so this is pretty awesome. I didn't think that I'd be able to get in contact with both of you.
Thank you, man. That means a lot. That really means a lot.
No problem, no problem. So, when was actually the last time that you two were in contact with each other since the falling out?
Oh well, I don't want to give any too many details away, but we are
I'd say
working on a Christmas
November.
album.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're
Me and HCL.
collaborating now?
We're collaborating sexually. We're collaborating on a Christmas album. It'll be out either this Christmas or maybe next Christmas.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. Oh, so you two are you two still on like bad terms, or are you two
I
on
think
better terms now?
we're on much better terms now since the beef and since we could all like voice our opinions. I think it's been good.
Really? HCL,
Yeah.
do you feel the same about that?
I think I enjoy making music with him.
Yeah.
I don't really like him.
Oh, okay. So I guess that leads me to my next question. How do you two feel about being in each other's company now?
I mean, he's really great to work with. He's a really talented producer and musician, and I think if I've got a vision, he can really help me create that and put that into music, and that's really nice. He's also just a horrible fucking person.
We're both very similar in ways, but also
Yeah.
very different in other ways.
Yeah,
I think that's a good
yeah.
combination of people sometimes.
So you're both definitely not on good terms. Like, you both don't like each other, but you are willing to put that aside for like your job.
I haven't made. It's less of a.
Yeah.
I say it's less of a job and it's more of a love for the art.
Yeah.
It's really about creating something that means
An
something to people.
expression, I'd say.
Yeah.
Expression, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see. A lot of people have made a lot of theories surrounding the two of you because not much is really public, obviously. I mean, myself included, that's kind of the point of what we're doing here, is to learn more about you. But a common theory is that you two were friends before the release of the first two albums. Is this true?
I don't like to be too open about it because I think the mystery is part of what makes the art so special to people. They can really put themselves into the art rather than have it be about, because it's not about us at the end of the day, it's about the product we create.
I see.
And as an artist, that is your role, much more than any kind of personal gain from it. It's about putting something out into the world that means something to people.
I think you benefit for it as a form of expression, and also the fact that, you know, people enjoy our art as well, you know. I think
That's...
I think it benefits both of us personally, like
That's-
our fans and us.
That is not what I asked.
We were
Yeah.
we were friends before any music was released.
Ah,
I
see.
think.
Okay.
Or when was Blessup 1 released? Were we friends at that point?
I believe it was released in 2020.
Blessup 1 was released. It was released on August the 14th, I want to say, 2023. I think. You can double check that though.
Yeah, I wrote it down for the video, but I it's not really in my head at the moment.
So I mean, you are a bit of a shitty interviewer, aren't you?
Virtual Wrangling. What was the inspiration behind releasing the Little Things album? Was it at all tied to the release of the first Blessup album? Because it did release a bit after that.
I think if you were a real fan, you'd know that Blessup 2 and Little Things came out on the same date.
Did they really?
Because that is why Little Things is the way it is. Because it was the time that Barbie and Oppenheimer were coming out. Obviously, they won't be as societally relevant as Little Things and Blessup, so when people watch this, they probably won't remember. But when those two films were coming out, Bob was working on Blessup, and I was starting to work on my first album, and he decided a date to release Blessup 2, and we were like, oh, we're going to do it at the same time. And suddenly he messaged me out of the blue, and he's like, I'm releasing in a few days. And I got all stressed out because Little Things wasn't done. So then I had to rush to finish those last few songs, which gives you songs like Roast Dinner because of that pressure of finishing that album.
I see.
And so they both came out on the same day.
I kind of just assumed because I got recommended the Little Things album I think a week after the release of Blessup, the first album, and since then you've deleted it off of YouTube, so I wasn't able to go and double check the date.
It's come on and off of YouTube quite a few times. It should be going up for the final time on the 1st of January 2025. Tiny Things will be up on the 2nd of January 25. And the Little Bits EP should be on the 3rd of January. Good. And if you guys are lucky, you might get Virtual World on the 4th. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, Virtual, is that another album you're working on?
That's an upcoming project of mine, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. What exactly was the falling out a result of? Like, how did it happen? If you're okay to talk about this.
Creative differences.
I would say, yeah. Reflecting on it now, in the past, I think I have been at times quite difficult to work with in a creative way. I think I take control of projects sometimes and expect people to do things that they're not capable of, and can get annoyed if they don't do it in time. And I think that would make it hard to work with me.
I see.
Hyper Chicken Licken can be very quick to anger. If I have ideas, he can just turn them down without a second thought and get very spiteful and hateful, which makes it very difficult to work with him.
I see. Okay. Do you have anything to say about that, HCL?
No, I think he's right. I think that's pretty accurate description of that part of our relationship.
I see. Okay. So, Hyperlick Chicken, the first instance of any diss tracks on either of the albums is actually in Blessup 2. One of them is Isaac diss track, and the other is diss track about Chad. Are either of these referring to virtual wrestling?
Well, the diss track about Isaac isn't about virtual wrestling himself as the persona. It's about the actual person, Isaac.
Oh.
And Chad is about a old mattress I used to have with my mate.
A mattress?
Awesome Pig 67. A mattress, yeah.
Oh, okay. That is news to me. I thought it was about.
I know it sounds crazy, but
yeah, I did not know that.
No, it's a mattress.
Wow. Okay. So another question for you, Chicky Licky. Both Blessup 1 and 2 have a picture of a field as the album cover, but
that's right. Yeah.
Blessup 2.5 has a picture of a house, and Bobbles has a picture of what looks like you. I think. Why is this? Did you run out of fields?
Exactly, because I ran out of fields, but I just wanted to take a different approach to, 2.5. You know, I wanted to make it seem a bit different than the other two. But after Blessup 2, I wanted to change it up a little bit. Blessup 1 is a lot more different than Blessup 2. Blessup 2 is I'm not proud. It's not a proud creation of mine, but I'm very happy with Blessup 1, and I thought after Blessup 2 I wasn't going to really make another Blessup 1. So,
So, Viral Recipe. You have a new album coming out in 2025. What can you tell us about this album? Is it going to be any different from your previous albums?
What?
You have a new album coming out in 2025.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Virtual wrestling?
Yes,
yeah.
I do.
Okay.
I wouldn't say album. I would say project. I think is more accurate. I don't like to use the word album.
Why is that?
Because it's a lot more than that. I like project because it's more than just the music. It's an experience.
Like
and yeah, it's more of it's like a journey. It's not about the songs. It's about the emotions that it makes you feel. And the places it takes you, and I think in some ways it's very discriminatory to call it an album because it really doesn't encapsulate what it is, and I don't think that's fair.
Can you tell us anything about this?
Yes, let me just give me a second.
I think virtual wrestling's just disconnected. Oh dear.
Hello?
Oh, hello. Are you? Your camera is green.
Okay, let me just join.
Okay. Oh, it's. Oh. So, virtual wrestling. Why is it that you deleted the last 2 albums from your YouTube?
I didn't really like them very much. I think at the time it wasn't very appropriate for the person I was. When I made those albums, I was in a very certain headspace, and I think as I was trying to get out of that place, I had to delete them. And now that I'm more free of that, I think I can put them back up as like a retrospective thing. I can look back on it without getting drawn back in the same way.
So, what would you both say your musical journey has been throughout the release of your albums?
Well, I started playing guitar on this classical guitar that used to belong to my mother. She never really learned to play it. I decided I wanted to learn guitar in January of 2023. And once I started learning it, almost all self-taught. There was a teacher at a place I was for a little while, but he was never useful. I think he was only useful at teaching people who already knew instruments how to get better, but I had no idea what I was doing, so he wasn't very helpful. I have no musical background before that. I didn't do anything musical as a child, but I found guitar and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So I sat in my room and I learned it, and I think ever since then that's been all I've wanted to do. When I started working on Little Things is when I decided I wanted to go to music college, and I was like, oh, I've got to start making my own songs then. So I went home and I wrote a song about cyclists because I was quite annoyed about them. And let me just play you. This is one of my favorite riffs I've written. I think this one's really, really meaningful. It means a lot to me. And that was the riff that started out to become Honeyfield's Pick and Mix.
I see.
And then I added to that the lyrics about cyclists.
I see. So you don't like cyclists then? Is what I got from that song. Well, that is very impressive to be able to create an entire album with no music experience before that.
I mean, I think I started maybe in August on that album, and I started playing guitar in January, so I had a basic idea of how to play guitar and how to play chords, and I knew very little theory. Not long after that, I decided that theory was something I was really interested in, and I focused on learning it more. But for that first album, definitely, and for a lot of tiny things, I knew little to no theory, and hardly knew how to play guitar. That is the main reason why none of it is in time. Well, it is in time, but it's in time in a more spiritual way, I think. It's less Western music, traditional time signatures, but it's more how it feels. But it was all done in Audacity, so it's not in time in that same way.
I see. Okay, that's very interesting. And HCL, what about you? What would you? Is he leaving? HCL, what would you say was your musical journey throughout all of this? Your rise to fame.
So right from the beginning. Well, I started. I used to have a really. Can I swear in this? Can I swear in this interview?
Yeah.
I had a really shitty keyboard that would only play these presets. That would go like just preset beats, and like I used to spend quite a lot of time because I was a homeschooled kid, so I spent a lot of time at home, kind of just cooking up beats on there, and just making them on there. But I think that's where my music. I think a lot for my parents as well. My parents have they're very same music taste, but also very different. Like my mum's into quite R&B, while my dad is quite into sort of this bit more alternative rock type stuff. So it's from those different backgrounds where I got a lot of my influence from. But I started playing guitar probably around 7 years ago, kind of technically 7 years ago. I kind of had an on and off thing. I had guitar lessons for like 2 weeks or something stupid like that, like something like 2 weeks, and then
Oh, really?
then I kind of put the guitar down, and then I came back to it in like 2021. So I always had a guitar around, not playing it properly until like 2021,
I see.
or
I
like
see.
lockdown time, maybe 2020.
What is?
So I made a kind of album.
Mhm.
It had stuff I made on GarageBand. It was really bad now looking back at it, but it had hit songs such as Devils Never Die and Dark Signals. They all were old songs of mine, and they wasn't very good. That was sort of around 2019, 20. That was like from 2017 to 2019. I was just making stuff on GarageBand and just like producing stuff like that. I made an album called Stage Dive in 2020. So
That
I've
wasn't
had a
very
lot
good,
of
though.
musical stuff go on. I've had quite a lot of musical bits, probably just since like 2016.
I see. I see. Okay. And growing up
Yeah.
with parents into music must have helped a lot.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. That added to so much.
Yeah. Bubbles. Last year, or not last year, last August, you released an album called Somin, but it wasn't on your main account. Why is this?
Well, I was more sort of demo songs, not demo songs, but there were songs I wasn't as proud of, and I just thought, I wanted to get them out. I had a small little studio, that's now gone, and I used to spend most of my days in there, and I created a bunch of just different songs, HCL Studios.
Big up HCL Studios.
Yeah, so I made a lot of songs there. So I just thought I'd put them all together and put them into an album.
I see. Okay. Wiggle Wiggle.
Yes.
On the Little Things album, there was a song named Symphony of Kez. Who is Kez?
This is quite a serious topic for me, so I don't want to box too much on it.
Oh,
But
okay.
I always get the dates wrong, and it's important to get it right for this, so that set the record straight publicly, because I think it's important. Sorry.
That's alright, don't worry.
Just a second, I've got to respond to an email. In the summer of 2023, a very, very close friend of me and HCL, friends with you, Bob, for a very long time, right? Friends with me for
Very long time.
not as long, but he was a good friend. And in the summer of 2023, he passed away. It was really sad. He was really young. A lot of Little Bits is inspired by the emotions I was going through after that happened.
I see. I'm sorry to hear that.
It was really unpleasant. But
Do you think maybe this could have contributed to you falling out in any way?
he was sort of the glue that held everyone together, wasn't he? I feel like,
He was the glue.
yeah.
I even said that at his funeral.
I think what hurt the most is that, like,
Famous.
he was
I see.
he was so major to everyone else, but he was so young at heart, and I think that made it really, really sting more how young he was when he died.
How old was he when he passed?
He must have. I think it was just after his 16th birthday, wasn't it?
Well, friends around him saw him as only turning 7, but I think he was 16.
Ah, I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it must have been a confusing time for both of you with such a tragedy going on.
Yeah, I think that helped both of us express emotion into our music. I think that was one thing that held on to me for months.
Yeah. Well, I am very sorry to hear that. That's a real tragedy.
Thank you for your condolences.
I think it was very pivotal.
It's just like Five Nights at Freddy's.
What?
Hyper Chicken Licken, similarly, you released a song titled Ode to Dobby. Can you elaborate on who Dobby is?
I know this sounds bad, but back in the day,
Okay.
I used to refer to Kez as Dobby.
Oh, I see.
It was his second name, and
Oh.
it kind of has to do with him. I also owned a Dobby that tragically got very badly beaten up in Brighton Beach.
Sorry, you
not
owned
too-
a Dobby.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was a stuffed toy then. That makes more sense.
Well, people around me said that, but I saw it as something more.
What happened to this Dobby then?
Well, it had quite a lot of sexual threats.
Your camera is
Try it on.
so fucked. I'm gonna be honest. We can't see a
Okay,
thing.
well I'm gonna try it on. So fuck you.
You got to stop being rude, man, because it's not polite and it's not cool, and you're gonna piss someone off.
No, it's not. It's not how an actual interviewer would do it.
I feel like
You're not.
it's
actually
really
interviewing
unprofessional.
Mason.
And
So what actually happened to this Dobby then?
Well, we got a lot of letters that were kind of like sexual threats.
Oh,
It was funny now because they wasn't gonna do anything, but
I see.
it was just describing what they were doing.
That's horrible.
But we took him out to Brighton for the day, and we got a lot of obviously strange glares. But he got badly beaten up at Brighton beach, and he unfortunately died.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's horrible.
It's okay. It was horrible then, but you know, I know it sounds like a really selfish and cruel way of thinking, but it really helped with the emotion that I try to portray in music. That and Kez, obviously.
Yes, of course. And so was he like a pet or a son to you?
more of a friend, wasn't he?
I'm a friend. It's kind of people would call him a pet, and I would get really quite offended.
I see.
He was a friend, a family friend, a long-time family friend.
Going from that to a much lighter question, what would you both call your like genre of music that you have in your albums?
I think number one, hot girl rap, especially for me, big inspiration like classical, romantic era classical music. With you, HCL, it's more sort of there's a lot of hip hop, right?
Really,
That's
no,
what-
I was more inspired by reggae and K-pop in my, especially the last the Blessup albums were mostly inspired by that.
I see.
Yeah, okay, actually that's fair. I see that.
So what K-pop artist has inspired you then?
One Direction, probably Ed Sheeran. I was listening to a lot of Megadeth at the time as well.
Oh, okay.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Stray Kids. I think they're a really cool K-pop band.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did that.
okay,
Not too
cool.
bad.
Them and Frank Sinatra are big, as far as K-pop goes, biggest influences for me.
There's a small artist named Jordy Grebe that I really liked as well.
I always hate to reveal anywhere I'm going in case the fans find us.
Yeah.
But we're going to see Jordy Grebe
I've had that before.
in April,
Oh,
and that'll be nice.
Lovely. I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
Big inspiration.
Also, can I add something to the fans and that.
Of course.
I've had a few stalkers.
Oh.
That wasn't very fun. Also went to a popular band in Brighton named the Rizzers.
Oh yeah.
They had a
Yeah?
gig going on, and a bunch of my fans showed up
Oh, I
and
see.
started beating up the Rizzers.
Oh.
It was quite bad.
Gosh, really? They went on stage?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah, because they
horrible.
wanted to see me, and they wanted to get the Rizzers off.
If you want to get a photo, like, you've got to be respectful about it. Because sometimes I'm out with my friends, or I'm working, and people come up to me, and it's like I'm filming a music video, and people walk over, and it really
Ah,
messes with things. It makes things really difficult.
I see. So you filmed
Yeah, I've had a
music
similar
videos
thing
there?
with my 12-year-old son.
You have a son?
Yeah, we was out at McDonald's, and there's a bunch of fans outside knocking down the windows and stuff. It was quite bad.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
Yeah,
that.
traumatic. You know, it's life of a musician. That's just how it is. You know.
Yeah, I am sorry to hear that. Most of the things
Well, carry on. I'm just making a cup of tea.
While we're wiggling, there is a song that you released called "The Camping Man." Now, out of
yeah.
like most of your songs, that's the main one that intrigued me. Can you elaborate on this, like what inspired the song? What's it about?
I would quite like to bring a guest on if that's okay, to talk about this.
A guest? Really? Okay. Who's the guest?
Wait. He doesn't. He won't want to talk to you. But if you've got questions, you can ask, and he'll tell me.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah.
Who was that?
This is Andrew.
Oh, I see.
He helped me. We worked together in Camping Man. Andrew was my friend when I was a kid, up until recently, but we're not really friends anymore. So this is. I have him instead. Would you let me play it for you?
Of course, yeah.
I'm gonna need you to censor any other files that come up when I'm screen sharing.
That's fine. That's totally
okay.
fine. I suppose my next question for you is, where were you on June 27th, 2010?
Well, I would have been 3 years old.
I wouldn't know what I was doing that specific day. I don't know if I can clarify that.
That's suspicious.
Not suspicious, I was a baby.
That doesn't mean you couldn't have
I
done
won't
it.
remember. I don't get it.
I don't know what he's talking about, and it's really pissing me off. You've been really rude this whole interview. It's like you've got sort of
Like,
weird
you're asking
inside
us
jokes
questions
that
and
you
like,
think
you're
are
not-
funny because you're a fan, and it's not. It's really uncomfortable.
It's
I
not
think
funny.
for us. It's not very mature, and
Anyway, the interview was a very eye-opening experience, and I'm very glad that I was given the opportunity to arrange it. Thank you so much to HCL and Virtual Wrestling for joining me for that. Their channels will be in the description below. The writing process of this video has taken longer than half a year, which is probably the biggest project I've ever embarked on. I haven't had much time to focus on any other projects during this time, but I promise that more projects are on their way. Thank you so much for embarking on this strange, fucked up little iceberg with me. This has been a lot. So much research, so much theorizing, so much crying in my bathroom, but I feel like I finally have the answers I've wanted all this time. So thank you for being patient with me, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!